next. Let's go to the calls. 9 lines, whatever you want. NBA, baseball is okay by me. Jimmy in Cleveland, he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Jim, good afternoon. How are you today, pal?
Hey, Chris, 2 NBA points and then a Boston Yankee point.
Yeah,
One
go
is,
ahead. Shoot.
Any chance you think there's a number that Jay Wright could get from the Knicks that would bring him to the Madison Square Garden?
Yeah, I thought of that. We mentioned that a couple of weeks ago. One thing about Jay Wright, he is not a New York guy. He's from Philly, Pennsylvania. So it's not like, it's like bringing him home. He's not from, he didn't grow up in the Lower East Side. I mean, or in Westchester or Long Island. He doesn't really have, outside of coaching Hofstra, Jay does not have a ton of connections to New York City. So I don't know if that is going to be a situation where he's going to be drawn into it. And he didn't go to Philly where he could have coached the 76ers. So I would say probably not. Probably not. Next.
All right, Cavs point and then the Boston Yankees point. Cavs, I agree with the previous call. I don't agree with Jeff Van Gundy. The Cavs, their hardest thing is going to be against the Pacers. They're going to do fine against Toronto, but their problem is the Pacers. I think the Pacers are a horrible matchup for them, and that's why they should have fought harder for the third or second seed. And I don't know why they didn't, but I'm not in the locker room. But I think that they're going to throw out a lineup, the Cavs, all over 6'8". Their starting lineups are all going to be over 6'8". So I think that's going to overwhelm Toronto. But I think somehow Indiana's going to give them a hard run. I think they might take in the 7. And so I think that's one thing to think of. And then as far as the Boston Yankees thing, I loved it. I thought it was great. I think, though, you mentioned the Machado thing. I seem to recall Machado. Didn't they throw at the Orioles like a bunch of times after that?
They sure did. Oh, they got back at Machado for a long time. Matt Barnes, the relief pitcher, he threw at the Orioles constantly, and that's the famous scene where Pedroia on the top of the dugout step said it wasn't me who did that. The pitcher did it by himself. So a lot of people think in hindsight, and they use that as an example, that the Red Sox last year, Jimmy, were not a collected group. A, no Ortiz to keep the clubhouse together. B, Farrell, been there a long time, and everything else. The problem that I have with that argument is it did not result in a team that was shaky. I mean, the team won 93 games. They beat out the Yankees, and they really had the, Sale pitch poorly, and they had the Astros in some trouble. I mean, they could have easily played a Game 5 in that series with an out or two at the end of Game 4. Easily played a Game 5, and who the hell knows with Sale? Well, he wouldn't have pitched Game 5 because obviously he had pitched in relief. But who knows how that Game 5 happens? And we all know Houston ended up winning a championship. So the problem with the idea that you got to keep clubhouses united and all that nonsense, let me see a disjointed clubhouse that stinks. The Red Sox still won 93 games. So would you rather have a disjointed clubhouse that wins 93 and makes the playoffs, wins the division, and gives Houston a tussle? Or would you have a clubhouse that all sings Kumbaya, they win 85 and don't make the playoffs? Which one would you want? That clubhouse unity thing's overrated, is my point. Here is Evan in Denver, and he's with his series on Mad Dog Unleashed. Ev, good afternoon. How are you today? What do you have?
Good. How are you, Chris?
Fine, Ev. Thank you. What's on your mind now?
Hey, a couple quick points. One, MLB-wise, I'm a Denver guy, but I just don't know how people are leading off with that Yankees brawl when that was a basic, takeout slide versus how could you miss that one at Denver between Arenado?
And the Rockies were wrong, Evan. The Rockies were wrong. I mean, because the Rockies hit 1 million Padres in 6 games. They hit the kid's ribs on the Tuesday night, and then after Story got hit, which should have been the end of it, they go out there and hit Renfroe. Well, what did you expect the Padres to do in that situation? Padres are not wrong. Arenado should have been thrown at.
Well, that pitcher certainly didn't hit anything on the 2 throws between the ball and his glove towards Arenado, and that guy went running.
Yeah, but that's a different story, Evan. If your big issue is that the Padre pitcher threw his glove on Arenado and ran, all right, fine. I mean, if you want to make a big deal that he wasn't a man about it and got himself, I mean, Arenado was crazed when he ran to the mound. But Arenado going to fight. I could care less, both teams. But you got to look at it. You got to evaluate it properly. And to me, when the Padres got clipped for about 6 straight games, and then they get clipped twice to the one time the Rockies get clipped, including a guy who's got bad ribs and now he can't play. I mean, what'd you expect? You got to, especially a Padre team that is a team that's trying to, forge a little identity. You had to expect them to do something. No, Marty in Vegas, Mad Dog Unleashed. Marty, welcome. How are you today?
Hey, Chris, how are you?
Fine, Marty. Thank you. What's on your mind now?
I just get upset of all these people calling about the Pacers with the Cavs. I understand that they've always given them a hard time. They haven't faced a new team, more athletic, younger, and it's the playoffs. They play differently. It's a different game completely.
I understand that. I get it. It's very difficult to bet against Cleveland. I completely agree. They got home court. LeBron is the best player by far. Cleveland is a team that has been there a million times. They swept Indiana last year. But, they're a big favorite in that series. And the Cavaliers can lose to anybody. The Pacers have a good offensive team. I saw them play a couple games late on a road trip. I saw them play a whole game in Sacramento. Oladipo had a great year for him. Sabonis is not terrible. Miles Turner is excellent. That team is dangerous. Now, the Pacers will probably lose, but that team is dangerous. Go ahead.
I just see them winning in 6. I don't think they're going to sweep them. I just see them winning in 6.
You see the Pacers winning 2 games, and even that's a lot. Even giving them 2 games is more than you would think. Here's Bob in Freehold, New Jersey. Robert, good afternoon. How are you today, pal? What do you have?
Mad Dog, what's going on?
Hello, Robert. Nice to talk to you. What's happening today?
I'm from Freehold, New Jersey. I think you know somebody from there that you really enjoy.
Yeah, Mr. Springsteen.
Anyway.
Mr. Springsteen from Freehold, New Jersey. Indeed, yes.
I'm living here 20 years, haven't seen him. But anyway, I want to talk Red Sox Yankees.
You're not going to see him either. Go to Rumson. You'll see him there. Go ahead.
I know. There's a sighting every now and then in the area, but, he's low-key. You don't want to bother him, which is fine.
Yep.
Love his music, great showman. But getting to the Red Sox and Yankees, you couldn't be more spot on about ESPN. They try and ruin everything. And, they don't want to talk baseball. I mean, how about talking about, David Price bailing out after the first inning because he's horrible against the Yankees? You know what I mean? They just ruin the game. They don't talk about the game. But how about, you going to talk a little hockey playoffs? I mean, I know you're not a big hockey fan.
Rob. We spent 4 hours yesterday with 13 guests talking the NHL playoffs. You talked to the Winnipeg GM, you talked to the Toronto GM, you talked to the commissioner, you talked to John Davidson, you talked to 3 broadcasters, 2 play-by-play guys and the Sirius, and the 1 play-by-play guy and 2 analysts, one of them for ESPN, the other one for NBC. You talked to 3 or 4 coaches, including the team that might be favored in Lavalette from Nashville. We did plenty of hockey, trust me. I have no issues with the hockey. We did plenty of hockey. So, Rob, obviously didn't have the radio tuned to Sirius XM 82 yesterday. He is Justin in West Palm Beach. Justin, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hey, Doggy, how you doing?
Hello, Just. Nice to talk. What's going on with you? What do you have for me?
So, just wanted to talk a little Red Sox last night. From a Yankee fan perspective, the only thing Austin did wrong was have his spikes up. Other than that, I thought it was a bad slide, and I just thought he went in hard. He was trying to break up the double play. Now, going over to Joe Kelly, he should be ashamed of himself. You throw 98 up and in at someone, what's it going to take? Baseball needs to do something about this. Someone's going to get hurt one day.
Well, baseball, I understand your point. Baseball is in a situation where I think they love the attention, and baseball will never admit it because who's going to admit they love the brawls? But use your noodle. Baseball absolutely needs. It's April 15th. It's 5 degrees out in every major league park. Baseball right now needs a little attention grabber, and especially with all the empty seats. And the Red Sox and the Yankees gave them exactly what they were looking for. Now, they don't want anybody getting hurt, but they gave them exactly what they were looking for. And as far as ESPN with the baseball folks, the problem that ESPN has right now, first off, they don't have a lot of guys on these shows or girls on these shows or just people who know a lot about baseball. I mean, let's call it like we see it. I mean, there's just not a ton of them out there, who you watch. I don't think a lot of them know that they know the NBA, they know the NFL. They'll break down Kaepernick with Seattle until the cows come home, but I don't think a lot of them know what's going on Rockies Padres. I mean, you think Jalen Rose knows a lot about Nolan Arenado? I mean, I don't see that. I just don't. So from that perspective, I think that's where you get in trouble. So if you go to ESPN for baseball, you're probably wasting your time. Make a long story short. Here's Raphael in Vermont. He is with us here on outside of their specialty shows around games they broadcast. And here's Raphael. Raphael, good afternoon. How are you today?
Hey, Chrissy, how are you, brother?
Hello, Rafi. Nice to talk to you.
Hey.
What's going on?
Hey, guess what, Chrissy? Yesterday, I am on Twitter, and I read an article about you, about WFAN, criticizing you for criticizing them on your show when you and Mike say something bad about their show.
Right.
They weren't nasty with you, but they were kind of disappointed. Like the director and the guy in charge of that show, they said like they offer you to come on the show one time during the Super Bowl, and you refused to, and they felt like they kind of talking to you like you were kind of ungrateful because they said you're supposed to be able to help them to boost the show instead of criticizing it. And I find that it was kind of funny that.
Well, I didn't see it in the newspaper, but a couple of people did send it to me. I'll say one thing about the Super Bowl. All right. The idea that I walked around Radio Row to do 30 radio shows to bash WFAN is such a bunch of nonsense. I did 2 interviews. I should say 3. I did 3 radio interviews at the Super Bowl. I did EEI in Boston because Killing Brady, and the morning show, and I actually came back at 1:00 to tape it. I did BZ in Boston, the Sports Huddle. Why? Because Tony Maserati is a friend of mine who fills in for High Heat when I'm off, so I figured I owed him one. And I did a radio station out in Comac, Long Island. A couple of kids, I don't know if they were kids or high school kids, that came up to me on a Tuesday and said, can you stop by after the show to do 10 minutes? And I took Eddie and a couple others up there, and I did 15 minutes. That is it. I did nobody else. So the idea that I ran around Radio Row knocking FAN is a bunch of nonsense. That's not fair. You could get on me what you want, but get it right. Get it. And I did not go on WFAN because the show had been on for about a week. And I just figured at that point, the nation had heard from me enough. I don't think my bosses wanted me to do it, by the way. They would have been annoyed if I did. It's not Mike. I said, Chris, really? You got to go back on FAN? Yeah, you were on there ever for Mike. Can you maybe lay low? They didn't tell me that, but I bet you they felt that. And I just thought that the time was not right to run over to FAN 3 weeks. And by the way, everybody who works with me, including Mr. Torrey, including Eddie Erickson, including Andy Moss, agree with me wholeheartedly. Am I right or wrong?
We're still talking about this.
Well, because the quarter brought it up.
Oh, I see. Yes. In one word, I'll answer it that way.
And and Steve would tell me would say differently. He said, "What are you crazy? Where are you going over there? You've been on there forever. It's 5 weeks. Let them get started." Jeez.
Yeah, I don't think you would have been opposed to doing it down the road once they were established.
I just thought it was too quick. They just started. I mean, gosh.
Right.
Plus the fact, I mean, let everything breathe for a little while, and they got all bent out of shape. Those are the 2 things I respond to.
Yeah.
And my favorite line, and you know it's true. What is it called?
Somebody said something about a rating.
Get a rating, please. And don't sit there and tell me, well, it was easy for us. 20 years ago, there wasn't a sports talk station in America. Well, 25, 30 years ago. And we had the whole world hating us. Mushnick, I can show you the stories.
Well, they put these 2 guys together?
Yeah, well, the guy, he talks like Daffy Duck. Nobody knows him. What an idiot. He's a jerk. He talks. Mike, the other guy,
doesn't know anything about sports.
Right, I heard that. Missed the encyclopedia. He's a know-it-all. That's what I heard for months, years, in 88, 89.
That's true.
What did we do for 2 decades? As I may pat myself on the back.
Yeah, please do.
Got a rating.
Yes, you did.
All right, now.
Congratulations.
How you doing, all right?
Yes, very good.
Did you have a problem with Tyler Austin's slide?
Look, I mean, if I'm a Red Sox fan and I see him going in like that, I would have said, you know what, that's, you had the spikes up, But to compare it like to Chase Utley and some of those other ones, come on. I mean, it wasn't that crazy. And I think they were overly sensitive about Manny Machado. There's absolutely no question in my mind.
I agree with that. Yep.
And the biggest issue I had 2 issues. And of course, I'm taking from the Yankees' perspective. Kelly, if you're gonna go after him, first pitch doesn't happen, and then you sort of don't throw it on the second pitch, so you basically think the guy's relaxing, and then you sandbag him that way. That's out of line.
Yeah, good point. Excellent, excellent point. They didn't do it back-to-back pitches. He threw a pitch in between.
Right. And now Phil Nevin. We got some calls, Danny and I today. Some people saying the guy's known to be like a.
Oh, he's a hothead.
He's a hothead. But I don't know what maybe he said some things that were way out of line.
That's a long way away for Alex Cora to hear it.
I'm just trying to be fair. Maybe he did, but for Alex Cora to stand there in the dugout and sort of, be dismissive like that and wave him on like, get out of there, stay in your box. Would Terry Francona do that? No. Would Bruce Bochy do that? No, he wouldn't. Joe Torre, come on. This is your first year. You disrespect the coach on the other team. You don't do that. I was really bothered by that.
I understand, and I agree with you. Alex Cora, he's not Joe McCarthy. Oh, my God.
I mean, your first week on the job. I mean, maybe get a clue about how you sort of conduct yourself. Now, again, Phil Nevin probably was no saint in this whole thing. I'm not disputing that. But I had a problem with Cora, big time.
Yeah.
And it's got me going now. This is what it's all about.
There you go.
As long as, Aaron Judge doesn't break a wrist on a fastball.
And, boy, does baseball love this.
Of course they do.
Rob Manfred right now says, you know what? They're talking about us. It's on. Look at ESPN. Look to your right now. Look. That even Lebertard, who can't stand the sport, look at him. I mean, he hates it. I mean, they're bouncing around and talking about it. Oh, they love this stuff. They're getting some attention.
Well, you've got the two teams that are bitter rivals who are going to be good, and they were on the MLB Network last night. It couldn't have been more tailor-made. Now, the problem is it was a friggin' 5-hour game. I'm watching the post game last night. I look at the clock. It's 12:30.
Yeah, wait. I got off it. But, yeah, I'm with you. All right, here's Steve Torre. He's got a sports bite on Mad Dog Unleashed.
Mad Dog Sports Radio.